Hey everybody, Mobius1 here, doing another Star Wars Galaxies emulator episode. In this episode we're going to be covering macros. You've probably heard me mention macros in other episodes of mine, and for those of you that are Galaxies veterans, you're more than likely well aware of what a macro is. For those of you who are rather new to Star Wars Galaxies, are probably quite the opposite, probably have no idea what I've been talking about this entire time. So, might as well go over them. In short, macros are a way for you to combine multiple commands into a single command. You can also use macros to create recursive commands or looping commands. You can use macros for a bunch of different things. We're going to make a couple basic macros, and I'm going to kind of show you a little bit of what you need to do in the basic macros. I am going to put some useful links in the video description, and there will be a follow-up video to this at some point covering something called aliases, which are kind of along the same line as macros, but they work a little bit differently. So let's just go over the basics right now. How do I make a macro, and what's a good example of a basic macro? Well, if you open up your command browser, which by default is the semicolon key, normally you'll be under combat, but you'll notice there's a tab here that says macro. Actually, let me delete some of these that I was messing around with before I made this video. Alright, so from here, this list will be empty for you when you first, if you haven't made any yet. What you're going to want to do is hit New Macro, and you're going to give your macro a name. So I'm going to name this first one YouTube1. Alright, after that, you can choose an icon for your macro, and it can really be anything that you want, though I would recommend choosing something that is an icon that is kind of along the lines of what your macro is going to do. That way you at least, can recognize it when it's on your toolbar. However, you actually can use macros without putting them on your toolbar, so this step isn't really all that important. But I'm gonna choose this little crescent moon icon here because I've never seen that before. Alright, and then you're gonna have macro text. This macro text field can essentially be considered a giant chat bar. Excuse me. So anything that you could normally type into your chat bar, you can type here, and it will work. Setting up macros is very similar to entry-level programming. So for anyone who's ever taken any classes or read any online tutorials on basic programming with any high-level language, you're probably going to pick up on this really quickly. That doesn't necessarily mean programming experience is required. Obviously, if you have absolutely no idea how to do any kind of computer programming, you're still going to be able to use macros. You might just have to read a little bit more on syntax. You might run into a few errors, but hopefully this video will help you get past those. So, hi Karaji, I am actually recording. So, just let's set up a really basic macro example. Let's say we want to advertise for my YouTube channel, but we don't want to have to type it out every time that we want to say something about it. We can use a macro for that. So if where it says macro text, type /say, and Karaji says hello internet, /say hey everyone, exclamation point, check out my YouTube channel, Mobius1, for some helpful SWGEmu episodes, exclamation point, semicolon. So you end every line in a macro with a semicolon, much like you end every line of programming text with a semicolon. The semicolon lets the game know that this is all one command. Alright? And this is the only command that we're going to have here. So technically, in this case, you could leave the semicolon off, but it's good practice to always end a command with a semicolon, just so you never end up missing one, because I guarantee you there's going to be a small percentage of you guys, even after watching this video, you're going to forget this semicolon. Alright, so I'm going to hit OK, It's going to add that macro to my list of macros here. Let me switch to an empty toolbar pane, and I'm going to click and drag this right up to my first quick bar slot up there. I'm going to go close this. So now I can actually click this button or hit my number 1 key to actually call that macro, which will say that chat message. So there I go, I hit number 1, and there it says right into spatial, hey everyone, check out my YouTube channel Mobius1 for some helpful SWGEmu episodes. Now like I said, you don't even need to put this on your toolbar. If I right click this now and remove it, you can actually summon or call any macro by typing /macro space and the name of the macro. So in this case, YouTube1. Enter. There it is. Says it again. So there's 2 ways that you can use macros, but how, is that really saving a lot of time, or is that really worth it? Well, let's look at a little bit more of how we can get into this, make this a little bit better. We're going to edit the same macro. Now if I go to a new line, let's say I want this to say this over and over again. Let's say I want this to be on some sort of timer so that it'll advertise my channel every couple of seconds. Now I'll make a note about the basilisks and the emu's rules regarding this after, but just for the sake of this video, let's say I want this message to repeat every 3 seconds. The command for waiting is /pause space, so /pause space, and then a number in seconds. So 3 seconds, I'm going to say 3, and a semicolon. That says, alright, first we're going to say this, then we're going to wait for 3 seconds. Then I want it to do the same thing again. Could I type /say, hey everyone, exclamation point, check out my... Yes, I could. You can absolutely do that. That is one way of doing it. However, then when you use the macro, it would only say it 2 times. Or 3 times if you typed it again. Or 4 if you typed it again. Or 5, etc. But instead of typing this over and over and over again in the macro, wouldn't it be nice to just type it once and have the game run the same thing over and over again? Well, you can do that. So instead of typing /hey everyone, blah 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 again, we already know, I just demonstrated, that you can in chat type /macro space and the name of the macro, and that will call that macro. Well, like I said at the beginning, this text box here is the same as this chat box. So I can actually type in the macro /macro space YouTube1 semicolon. What this says, essentially, breaking it down for you non-programmers, is first when we call this, we're going to say this line, then we're going to wait 3 seconds, and then we want the game to run a macro YouTube1, which happens to be this same macro again. So it'll say this line again, wait 3 seconds, and then call this macro again. And so basically you typed it out 1 time, and it's calling itself. It's called a recursive macro. And you programmers are probably like, yeah, dude, we get it. We know this. We learned this in our freshman year of college. Whatever. It's important to know. So if I go ahead and click OK, let me put this back on my toolbar. Now I'm going to use this ability 1 time. There it is. 1, 2, 3, boom. Alright, I was a little early. 1, 2, 3, boom. Alright, so now it's going to say this every 3 seconds. Now, that really spams chat. And there's actually a rule on Basilisk about doing this, so I don't recommend doing it. But what I wanted to demonstrate is if you're writing a macro, a recursive macro, and you accidentally leave out a semicolon or do some other kind of syntax error, and you start spamming chat, you need to know how to stop your macros. There are 2 ways you can stop macros. You can actually... quitting the game, closing the client will actually stop a macro. Little side note, logging out does not. So if you were to go back to your character select screen and sign back in, even on another character, your macro will still be running. However, quitting the game would stop it, but that would really suck, right? Having to quit the game every time you want to stop your macro. So there is a command that you can type to stop the macro, and it's /dump. Go ahead and get your laughter out now. But /dump, D-U-M-P, will actually kill any of your looping macros. So 1 pause command chain's dumped, and that stops it. Now, the emulator's rules on recursive macros are actually on macros at all that take up chat space are you need to have a minimum of 180 seconds or 3 minutes between each chat bubble in your message. So if I really wanted to set this up to do it to loop on its own, I would have to do a pause 180 before it did it again, which means it would say it once, it would actually wait 3 whole minutes, and then it'll say it again. So if I wanted to set Mobius up in like Mos Eisley or Coronet or somewhere and have him advertise for my channel, that's how I would have to do it. Alright, so that's really recursive macros. The next important thing I want to talk about is using macros to either switch toolbar panes or use abilities on different toolbar slots. So you may have already noticed, and I actually showed you earlier in this video, that you can cycle these your quick slots through different toolbar panes, and you have 6 of them, numbered 1 through 6, obviously. You can use a macro to switch these. So what I'm going to do, let me go to my 5th line again, and I'm going to write a macro. I'm going to do a new macro, and we're going to call this armor up. All right. And we're going to, what can we make it look like? Again, this doesn't really matter, but just to be cool, I will make it the Imperial emblem, since it's like we're going to war, right? Alright, now let's say you want to write a macro to equip all of your armor. Because right now, right, if you want to equip all your armor, by default, you have to go into your inventory and double-click each piece. Let's say I want to write a macro that'll put all of my armor on at the same time. Well, actually, it won't do it all at the same time because there is a delay between each armor piece you equip, but you'll see what I mean. You're going to want to go to an empty one of your toolbar panes. In this case, I'm on number 5. And you're going to put all of your armor on these quick slots. It doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter in what order they're in. But I'm going to put them in the order that I usually equip them, which is head, chest, pants, boots, arms, gloves, which actually I'm not wearing my armor gloves right now. Okay. So you're on an empty toolbar pane, in this case 5, and you have all your armor lined up. In the macro, you're going to want to type /UI space action space toolbar pane, P-A-N-E with a capital P is required, and in this case 04 semicolon. Why is that? Well, since you have 6 of these toolbar panes, the first one is actually considered 00. So this is toolbar pane 00, number 2 is 01, 3 is 02, 03, 04, 05. So really, while they go from 1 through 6, as far as the game is concerned, they go from 01 to 05. So toolbar pane 5 to the game is toolbar pane 04. Again, for you non-programmers, that could be a little confusing, but it's like an array for you programmers. Alright, so this command right here will actually switch your toolbar pane to number 5 no matter which one this is on. Then we want it to run through this list of quick bars. Now, very similarly to the toolbar panes, all of these quick bar slots are numbered, but they start with 00. So the first one is 00, then 01, 02, 03, etc. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the 13th quick slot bar, or quick slot, is actually quick slot 12 to the game because it starts with 00. So we're going to have it switch. We'll do a pause. I usually like to do a pause of like 1.5. You can do decimals in the pauses, by the way. 1.5 to 2 seconds pause, just to accommodate for any kind of latency that's going on whenever you run the macro. If you try and do too many things on top of each other, if you get any kind of connection lag or server lag, or if there's like a hiccup or something, you could actually end up missing one of the lines in your macro, which, depending on what it is, can throw everything off. So always, I highly recommend putting in some sort of very slight delay between your different commands. So in this case, I'm going to do a 1.5 second delay. Then we want to do UI action toolbar slot with a capital S 12 semicolon. And that again is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 pause 1.5 semicolon UI action toolbar slot 13 pause 1.5 UI action toolbar slot 14, etc. And you can do this all the way down to 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And basically, when you do all that, you'll be able to type /macro armor up or click the armor up icon. So let's put this on here. And I'm actually not going to remove my armor because I am not buffed and do not want to not be able to use it again. But what I will do is I'll put food up there. So we'll put this cake, put this Bespin port, put some spice, Muon gold, and what else could I put up there? Viserion brandy. Brandy, there we go. Remove these other ones. So instead of armor up, I guess this is going to be eat up. So let's change that. Armor up, edit. Eat all food. Whoops, one word. Eat all food. Alright, so it's going to switch to 4. It's going to do 3. We'll add 1, so it does the brandy also. Pause 1.5. UI action toolbar slot 15. We'll pause another 1.5. We will switch the UI back. We'll say, actually, let's say something first. Let's say, I ate all my food! Exclamation point. Pause 1 second, and UI action toolbar pane 00. That way, it switches us back to our first toolbar pane. All right. So I know this looks like a lot, but let's see exactly how this works when we run it. All right. So here we go. Eat all food. I'm going to actually put that right here. So now I have it on my primary toolbar. Macro, eat all food. I'm going to go ahead and hit it, and let's watch it work. There, it switched it for us, switched the pane for us, ate the cake, drank the Bespin port, used the Muon gold, drank the brandy, I ate all my food, and it switched us back to our toolbar pane 1. Beautiful. Alright, so like I said, you could use that. That way you could set up macros to switch between like your armor, or if you have clothing. You could use it like this. If you have a bunch of food that you like to eat before you go into a fight, you can set up a macro that'll automatically go and eat all your food for you. There are so many different things like this that you could use macros for. I use macros for buffing. So when I buff people, I actually, instead of using the buff pack, I have a macro that will actually uses UI action toolbar to use the buff on the person, pauses 0.3 seconds, so it's a real short pause, and then it actually sends a tell to the target telling them how far through the buff cycle that they are. I found that that's very helpful. Lets people know if they've missed a buff, because then they can check their tell history and say, hey, I didn't get buff 4 out of 6 or whatever. So that has been very helpful. There's a surveying macro for people to that are working on Artisan. They want to grind survey experience. I do have another macro that I use for advertising for my YouTube channel. I even have a macro to cycle through an attack over and over again. So macros are awesome. I mean, if you play the game enough, chances are you're going to be doing something a lot that you wish you could do quicker. That's what macros are used for. You can go your entire Galaxy's career without using macros. It's just they're like an ease of use kind of thing. So I hope this video helped. It is possible to load macros from a text file. It is also possible to shorten typing your macros, so the whole alias thing that I mentioned earlier in the video. I don't want to get into that now because this video already has so much information in it, but I will be doing another video on aliases in the future. I'm not that familiar with loading macros from a text file, but I am going to, in the description of this video, put a link to not only a written guide on macros that I got a lot of information from, but also contains a list of every single / command in Star Wars Galaxies. That'll help you guys that are looking to set up really specific macros, but you're not sure what the game considers the different abilities, what their names are or whatever. All that information is going to be listed on this forum thread, so check that out if you're looking to set up something that I haven't covered. If you have any questions, definitely post a comment on here and I'll see if I can help you out. But definitely give this video a like, guys, if it helped you learn anything that you didn't already know. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I just recently broke 1,000 subscribers, and I am going to do some type of giveaway / contest. I'm just working the kinks out of it now and figuring out where I'm going to get all the money from. But stay tuned. Alright, guys? So thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next episode.